Good evening, everyone out there. Welcome to another exciting ride with Urban Birds and Bees. I'm Dr. Kerry Neal, your host and moderator for Urban Birds and Bees, and we have a very interesting, insightful, and thoughtful discussion this evening. We have the one and only Grace Mace with us, and this evening's topic is when home is gone, rebuilding community and legacy. And this is going to kind of talk about the recent fires in Los Angeles, and more specifically in this case in Altadena and Eaton Canyon and beyond, and some things that while those fires are over with, there's a lot of things that are still needing to be addressed, and some of this information may kind of sort of shock you. But in the meantime, Grace, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. What's going on with you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about this discussion, mainly because it's such a it affected me deeply.
Yeah.
And I believe that families in Altadena deserve more than just sympathies. They deserve real tools, real conversation, and real information. So help them to have a clear path forward so they can move on with their lives.
Yeah, that's well said, well said. Yeah, it's and we also want to thank Grace too because she's so busy. She's in the Bay Area right now, joining us from Northern California. So we appreciate you taking time out with us. So without further ado, in the wake of the devastating Altadena and Eden Canyon fires, families are navigating more than construction timelines. They are grappling with the loss of memory, legacy, and identity. And for many, especially in Altadena's deeply rooted multi generational African American community, rebuilding is not just about structures, but it's about preserving family memories, land, and belonging. And so this evening, we're joined by Grace Mace, a trained architect, licensed contractor, um, and founder of HomeRes.ai, which is an innovative platform that transforms how homeowners and builders communicate, collaborate, and rebuild. And we'll talk about why that's so important based on our topic of what's taking place, obviously, in Altadena. Um, so, so now Grace, she has degrees from UC Berkeley and Yale,
Sure.
including leadership experience at major tech companies and firsthand experience surviving the 2025 Los Angeles fires. Grace brings a rare fusion of architecture, artificial intelligence, and lived empathy to the rebuilding process. Her platform, HomeRes.ai, is solving a critical but often overlooked problem. People don't lack solutions, they lack clarity. Grace, again, thank you so for joining us this evening.
Thank you. This is going to be such a fun discussion.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But before we dive in, I'm going to go into some key data points. But before that, I want you to just really quickly, Grace, respond to the whole idea of people don't lack solutions, they lack clarity. So when I say that, what does that mean to you
In
in this
construction,
context,
especially.
obviously?
Yeah, in construction, especially, the solution exists. The building science exists. Better material also exists. However, and in fact, there's even incentive to build better exist. So the reality
Hmm.
is that all that information exists. The clarity, what comes down to is they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know those information exist. And the awareness and clarity of how do I go about building something that actually address these issues. For example, leveraging the better building science, implement with better building materials, and take advantage of these incentives to offset all the construction cost. And that's what really comes down to what we're seeing here in Altadena, boots on the ground. People just lack of that information or lack of awareness and clarity to how to go about proceeding building better homes and also finding a way to manage, recalibrate the cost of the construction of
Yeah,
rebuilding.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that's really critical because, we live in this day and time, or particularly now, I mean, it's one thing if something in your house is broken, the plumbing doesn't work or something like that, a window gets busted or whatever else, even if you have to kind of get the repiping done, which can obviously somewhat costly too. But not many of us have to come or deal with the reality of when your home is burnt to the ground
Yeah.
and you have to start over. So, and on top of losing everything in your home, to your memories and things like that, the different things that meant so much that really made your home a home, not just a house, made it a home. Now we're talking about actually rebuilding that, and so much stuff that is involved with that. So it's well said. But with that being said, let's go into some of these key data points, and then we're going to really get into our discussion with Grace and talk more about the rebuilding process and what's critical at this juncture. So now this is going to give everyone a context of what we are concerned about. So here we go. So let's talk about the Black home ownership in Altadena. Okay. So now listen to this. This is pretty interesting. 75 to 81% of the Black residents in Altadena own their own homes, right? So of all the Black people that live in Altadena, of all the Black people that live there, nearly 80, north of 80% of them are own their own homes. Pretty
Mhm.
fascinating, right? Now, why that's really critical, that's nearly double the
Yes,
national Black home ownership rate, which is
right,
around about 45%. Very interesting, right? So the translation of that is that Altadena is one of the strongest examples of Black middle class ownership and generational wealth, not just in California, but in the United States. Okay.
yeah.
Now, let's talk about the impact of the Eaton Canyon fire, excuse me. 48% of the Black households were destroyed or severely damaged by the fires, right?
Right.
61% of the black households, excuse me, were inside the fire perimeter. So there was fire people, the homes obviously that were in the epicenter of the fire, but then there
Right.
were homes that was adjacent to the fire on the outskirts, but they still were impacted when before fact. Maybe it didn't burn down, but maybe there's horrible smoke and it was inhabitable. So now other things need to be done to bring it up to living standards.
Right.
Uh, the fires destroyed nearly half of all Black households in Altadena. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, this just wasn't a wildfire, it was a direct hit to generational Black wealth. And you talk to any financial expert, they'll ask them what is the best way to acquire wealth and to produce generational wealth, and it's through real estate. Okay.
Hmm. Definitely.
Now, the rebuilding reality is interesting. Nearly 70% of the damaged property owners have not rebuilt or sold. Okay. And Grace, you'll be able to talk more about that as well. 73% of the severely damaged Black owned homes showed no rebuilding progress months later from the time that we gathered these stats a couple of months ago. We are not in a rebuild phase. We are in a stalled, vulnerable, high risk phase where exploitation can occur. Let's
Right.
talk about some of those vulnerability factors, right? Again, we're going to continue to provide this framing. 57% of the Black homeowners are over the age of 65. So we're dealing with a more seasoned population. 81% carry mortgages, meaning the home was not fully paid off. And many
Right.
face, you can imagine, insurance gaps or
Hmm.
insurance denials, underinsured homes, predatory buyers. You can
Yes.
imagine
Hmm.
contractor exploitation. This is a perfect storm for financial manipulation and displacement. Now, Grace platform in this sense is not just helpful, it directly targets three of the biggest failure points in this crisis, okay? Information and clarity,
Hmm.
exploitation risk, and decision fatigue. Okay. Now, Grace, I want to ask you before we get into the technology.
Hmm.
Now, you heard everything we just said. Help us understand what's really at stake in Altadena right now. What does rebuilding mean beyond construction? Please.
So if you think about I mean, first of all, it is just devastating what many of these families went through.
Yeah.
And owning a home is identity.
Hmm.
It's a, it's not just we share laughs, it's everything about the family, how everyone pulled together, generational wealth, grandparents hosting dinners, and it's everything that we care so much about. And
Yeah.
most Americans, it's especially tougher for the African American communities because during that time when the grandparents purchased the homes, many of them Americans weren't, that it wasn't available for them to buy.
Mhm.
And to owning a home means a whole different level than what we are familiar with owning a home. The home
Mhm.
ownership, the path, their identity for who they are, how much they struggle to get to owning that home.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a whole different level of different caliber of intensity. And
Hmm.
owning that home is a proof that they made it,
Mm.
right?
So well said. So well said. Oh, wow.
They made
Continue,
it
continue. Yeah.
for their family, for their children, for their grandchildren to have a foundation root for their
Mm.
whole entire, family.
Yeah.
And when it burned down, it's not just, hey, I'm dealing with insurance and contractors. Yeah, those are horrible when they get taken advantage of. But the grief is hard, just us losing somebody, but us losing the identity.
Yeah.
Just matter of just one day you had your home, you remember all those memories, and next day everything is gone.
Mm.
And then
Mm.
for them to have to navigate through these complex financial and technical decisions that they never had to deal with, and now they're
Right.
forced into it. And
Yeah.
just think about the psychology behind it, the emotional aspect.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Most of us are not equipped to do this unless you're trained to deal with construction, all the good, all the things that some of us have to deal with. But that's just horrendous.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
And you can imagine a lot of the things that were in the homes. I mean, they'll never be able to get back. It's
they'll never
gone. It's
is gone.
gone. Family heirlooms, you name it, it's just gone. The mental devastation, as you talk about the psychology of it all, is incredible.
Right. They didn't ask for it. That's the thing. They did not ask for this to happen to them. This
Good point.
literally is pushed onto them. So
Mm,
now they
mm.
have to scramble and figure things out. And there's a lot of noise. Let me just start with that. There's a lot of noise
Mhm.
out there. And one will show up, declare they're a
Mm.
contractor, they know what they're doing. And next
Right.
thing they're asking 50% deposit, which is illegal here in California. And so just to be clear, the state law
Wait a
is
minute. Say that again, so make sure that everyone heard what you
it
just said.
is
Say that again.
illegal to ask more than 10% or $1,000 more, within $1,000 or 10% of the project. Obviously, rebuild for 10% is more than $1,000. So you can ask for a
Sure.
deposit for $1,000 only, not 50% of the
Mm.
project, or that is a red flag when someone's asking to do that.
Okay. And I'm just curious on that point. What have you heard in that regard? What are some of the down payments that you've heard some of these predator contractors have
Mhm.
asked for, so to speak?
They've asked 50%, they asked for thousands of dollars and
Wow.
never checked for the credibility, never checked for insurance validations. It just, once the money is taken, they can never get it back.
Wow.
That's devastating. Consider these are just like you mentioned, they're 65 and plus. That's their life savings. All of a sudden
Hmm.
just disappear. And
Wow.
it's heartbreaking. I mean,
And no one's really regulating this either. Is that correct?
unfortunately, residential construction is very fragmented. It's very difficult to regulate. One
Mm.
would declare, pop up nowhere and declare they're a licensed contractor. They borrow their friend's contractor license, but they're not legitimate contractor, and their friends may not know that they're licensed being borrowed. So
Mm.
it's hard to diffute that kind of stuff. And really, there's the level of due diligence. You need to check at the state board, license board to verify they're the right people. Ask for insurance, for the certificate of insurance to verify they do own this company and they do have all the credible information and the insurance company vouched for them. And on top of that, you want to make sure that they have like workers' comp. Everything is, the right place to declare that they are professional. I mean,
Mm.
the construction industry is very um, established, let's just say. But there are
Mm.
these fraudulent, the bad actor shows up And all of a sudden, they just completely minimize all the hard work that, many of us work so hard to, to represent, honor the profession. And like you said, they're out there to take advantage of them because unfortunately, homeowner, they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
even know where
No.
to start.
Yeah. Yeah.
When someone shows a little bit empathy, all of a sudden feels like, oh, they understand me. They can help me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, these bad actors are there to take advantage of people like that, the vulnerable place. And they don't know all the different settlements and what is fair, what's not fair. Just like I mentioned, $1,000, it's a state regulation. They don't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're also, hearing from other people, all of a sudden, all that noise is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And where the decision fatigue comes in, it's like, all right, maybe just make a decision. When they make a
Right.
poor decision, has such a huge implications or negative impact to their well-being of possibility actually building the home.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. And,
predators,
and then on top of all the crazy stuff they're going through, now they got to deal with all this ambiguity stuff. Don't know who to
right,
trust. Everything else is going, oh my God, it's a nightmare. Wow.
right. And these predator buyers that you mentioned earlier, they lowball the offers. And so what does that mean for the homeowners? How they can pass on the generation wealth, especially when homes are costing millions of dollars. And they're
Hmm.
certainly not getting millions of dollars back.
Right.
That's
Right.
it.
Yeah. And then too, and to your point as well, I mean, like some of the homes are kind of like family heirlooms. They've sort of been passed
Right.
down. They're
Hmm.
not really carrying the mortgage, so it gets burnt down. And depending on what their mindset is about generational wealth, or just let me just sort of get what I can get. Somebody said we'll give you $250,000, $400,000, and you're scot free. You don't have to worry about all this complexity. It just seems like this is much easier, and they don't think about these
Right.
implications and they don't realize they're in a predatory trap, which is also interesting too, right?
Exactly.
Have you heard some of those testimonies as well?
I unfortunately have. And sometimes you hear it afterwards, and there's little they can
Mm,
do. You
yeah.
can file a police report, but at some point, the entity was never registered and the phone number is no longer active.
Wow.
And you can't trace the person and they don't have an address. And
Right.
so they have a name, may not be an actual name, or they make a common name so you can never trace after this person who took all the money. It's a devastating experience. And unfortunately, many of the Altadena families are struggling with that.
Yeah. Yeah. That,
Now we're
that, that,
going through the second wave. The predators came in, the bad actors came in, and now they have less money to put back into their house. And as a contractor, we always find ways to support the community, help them to rebuild. Is just devastating experience. And I know working with Charmaine, they're really committed of finding ways to bridge that gap. The funding gap
mm,
is always going to be there. And
yeah.
regardless of rebuild and other things. But what makes it more important for rebuild is knowing that physically you live nearby foothill and next wildfire will happen. It's not if, it's when,
It's a win. Yeah, it's a win.
right?
Yeah.
You cannot afford to build what used to be there. And you have to
Mm,
build better to have a fighting chance against the next one. And unfortunately, this is another piece of information that a lot of people misunderstood is the terminology like for like is actually a planning term to build
hmm.
within the same existing footprint plus 10%. That you can go through expedited planning review process without extensive, planning reviews and so forth. However, a lot of people misinterpret like for like as I'm going to build exactly what was there that got burned down with the same material, same method, no consideration for better building science. And guess
Yeah,
what?
and that's what I would assume too, hearing the same thing too. But
Yeah,
there's obviously confusion there as well. Wow.
there's tons of confusion. It's not just with the homeowners, it's even with contractors and architects. So put things
Mm,
in perspective. That type of information is creating so much confusion within the industry. And as a result,
mm,
the homeowners one suffering at the end.
mm.
Because if they were to build what it was there, or even just bare minimum, the next time comes around, The chance
Wow.
to fight the fire virtually is none. They'll have to go
Yeah.
through this again. And that's what really like keeps me up all night, knowing
Mm,
that this will continue to happen and people being taken advantage of, or people unintentionally unaware of this type of event could happen to them without
yeah.
knowing how to build better. Simple things as amber resist vent that you put in, or complete cover of your the roof eaves, and finding a better, roof building envelope and windows. All those matters. All that actually
Mm,
have an impact to, do you have a chance to fight the next fire? Will your home
yeah.
survive
Yeah.
the next fire?
Yeah.
Did you clear out all the shrubbish around your homes the first 5 feet? What they call it zone zero.
And I'm sure most don't even think about that kind of
You don't
stuff.
think about it. They just think,
Oh
oh,
my God.
can I just build my home back? I just need something I feel like I can control. But
Hmm.
when we don't expand our knowledge of what we can do better and just building what used to be, that's going to cost them, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a really devastating. Right now, we're talking to Grace Mace, who's an architect and the creator of HomeRest.ai, and our topic today is when home is gone, rebuilding community and legacy. So, Grace, okay, so I mean, this is some wow, some crazy stuff. So, okay, so now, Grace, now you've worked across architecture, construction, and tech.
Yes.
And then you just happen to experience the fires personally, right? So it's not some theory or you've read in a book or just happen to someone talk about it. You yourself were involved in this as well. So walk us through how all of that converged into the creation of HomeRes.ai and what it
Well,
is, et cetera, else, and how this all came together.
it's a great question. It's very, I think this is a quite special, especially I'm sitting here at UC Berkeley campus. And the first time I evacuated from the fire was Oakland Hills Fire, 1991.
Mm,
So that's
mm,
34 years ago.
okay.
And I started thinking about when I was evacuating from an Eden fire, 34 years apart, same thing happened over it again. These are
Mm,
preventable,
yeah,
absolutely preventable.
yeah,
But unless we change our behavior, unless we change how we build, this will happen again.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so that was where the light bulb came in as, what can I do to help? And timing with artificial intelligence came in just the right time.
yeah.
Realizing that most of the contractors, they're just absolutely busy. They don't have
Hmm.
time to learn the latest technology or the latest building science. The information is very scattered, very fragmented. What if we have ability to leverage the technology of artificial intelligence to gather everything together at your fingertips
Mm,
and helping the contractor to enable them to have better knowledge, better understanding, integrating all that information into practice and be able to find all the, how to not only how to build, what to buy, what material to use, and how to find a way to make it affordable for homeowners. Those are three pieces that most people don't think about. It's a system design. Often they think about one piece in a silo operation, but
I mean,
for
I
us,
would think the same thing too, right? Yeah,
right.
I would the same way.
I'm
Yeah, for
focused on
sure.
resilience. I need to focus on fire. But here in California, we also deal with earthquake. So there's
Yeah,
the other factor. Material used for both of them may not be exactly the same. And
yeah,
what you've seen when you drive through Altadena, all you see is chimneys and concrete pavement. And those are the things that are left behind after the fire. But
yeah,
when you think about an earthquake, that's a reverse order. The chimneys and concrete are the first to fall.
yeah, yeah,
So oftentimes people you'll think like, well, why don't you just build everything out of, bricks and they can survive the fire? In theory, but we also have other factors to consider. So how do we make sure with that, all that building technology to develop a solution, a system that actually will work for us? And reality is there are solutions that help us understand that. And it is
Sure.
possible to live in a place that we can still enjoy Altadena, still can live there and understand what's a method to rebuild this better so that they actually can enjoy this space, their homes, and start regaining their identity and their foundation
Mm,
for the next generation.
mm, mm. So that's interesting too, right? Because and mind you, as you go more into detail of your platform. Um, this is not just for to clear up the ambiguity for the client in terms of the home builder. There's also synergy opportunities for the builder, the architect, and other individuals that may be involved too. Talk
Yes.
about why, because I would just think that everybody's on the same page, and you're saying that's not always really the case. In
Right.
addition to some of the savings, talk about that a little bit, please.
So this is the reason why we realize that AI can actually pull all the information together and more importantly for the professional, the contractor, the architects, be more aware of all this information. And what we want to do is making this invisible visible. So this
Mm,
becomes information is front of their for them to be able to understand this and able to articulate clearly the big full picture, what this means for the homeowners, and define the strategy to understand how to go about doing this that actually have a longer impact, not just on the upfront costs. For example, insurance reduction. If you're able to bill up to IBHS, which is Insurance Institute of Business and Home Safety. They have set very clear criteria. They've been testing too to see what
mm,
material works and how would actually, if you were to, when you do rebuild, if you apply those materials, actually they would be, a chance not to burn down. And this is where the insurance companies, with that certification, they're able to reduce insurance premium. So those are things that are actually savings, not just upfront costs. These are long-term savings plus dividends that will have impact over a long period of time of, the 30 years ROI investment. When you
hmm
start looking at that and figure out the payback period, all of a sudden that conversation becomes more interesting because now becomes investment based on value, not just upfront cost.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let me ask you something, right? It's
Mhm.
okay. So I'm hearing that this or there's like there's this tiered cost for materials to rebuild a home, right? And it sounds like you could actually get cheaper materials that may not necessarily be advantageous in terms of another disaster versus others, right? And then
Mhm.
there's the framework of what the materials will cost and how much you're insured for, right? And
Right.
so I have heard that oftentimes there's a gap in
Yes.
terms of what it needs to, and let's say, even if we're not even talking about preferred materials, but in terms of, okay, I've been approved for $800,000 to rebuild my home, but it's
Hmm.
actually going to cost at bare minimum $1 million. So,
Right.
how does your software help to sort of mitigate some of these challenges like that as well?
So great question. We actually started thinking more holistically.
Okay.
We recognize there are incentives that, at the state level, at the local utilities, municipalities, they actually have funding allocated to support, especially for the rebuilds, and also
Mm,
address for different income level and different eligibility, such as seniors or medical needs and so forth. And when you stack them up, often people don't realize when you stack all these incentive rebates and so forth, and also I forgot manufacturers too. This actually have a pretty significant, it's pretty beefy amount of money that you can actually leverage as part of rebuild. And then there's next level of finance options. There are plenty of um, low interest rate, low APR, such as USC, the credit union. They have this
mhm,
program for, uh, go green, building green, building back to a greener, more sustainable homes and applying for better, appliances or equipments like HVAC systems using heat pump instead of traditional gas furnace. That also reduce not only the cheaper finance option, it also reduces your utility cost. Most people don't
Interesting.
think about that. We're talking about thousands of dollars saving just on utilities, in addition to what we think about. And then the other thing is the maintenance costs also reduce. And some of these, when the traditional or standard options may be more affordable on the front, but when you start looking at more, when you start peeling the onions or the specs, really, you get to
Right.
see the impact of lifespan. And the
Hmm.
lifespan actually will be longer, so you wouldn't be replacing as frequently. So that itself is a actually cost reduction when you look at the
Mm.
whole picture of investment.
Interesting. Now,
And their
look,
grants. The other thing is their grants, in addition to all the incentives that dedicate to support rebuilds, especially
oh,
for
it's
elder
interesting. So
county.
some people are giving money to help out with the residents in terms
Yes,
of rebuilding.
yes, yes.
Interesting.
There are money sitting on the table most people don't know about, and as a government, they can't advertise it either. So it's one of those chicken egg things.
Wait a
You
minute.
know
That
you
don't make
want
any
to give
sense.
to the
The
right
money
people.
exists, but they can't really promote it, huh?
They couldn't they can they have it available. They'll set up
Hmm.
programs, but reality is most people don't go out of their way to look for them.
Got
I
it.
mean, they wouldn't pay advertisement to promote it. That's what I meant by that.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
So they'll
Gotcha.
tell people about it when they ask, a homeowner go up to the counter and ask about, hey, are there an incentive? Trust me, they're so well versed and they want to help. They're eager to help the
Okay.
homeowners,
Okay.
but they can't
Okay.
buy Facebook ad or LinkedIn ad to advertise about the programs.
Sure, sure, sure. And this
So
is where your platform comes in handy because it pulls all that in.
we pull
Talk more about that, please.
So we put all those in, we stack all the incentives. We look at the criteria. First, I mean, the first thing we do is the contractor would have to enter the address, describe the scope of work, and based on those various data, we have a good sense of what they are. So the
Okay.
system media look up the assessor's data to understand what was the home value at, what's the square footage, when was the build loss, original build time, and then start identify what type of natural disaster risks are they exposed to.
Hmm.
And once it's
Mm.
just like anything, once you understand what the problem is, then we can come back with solution. Then we start building out the solution pathway to identify for this wildfire, here's the things you can do, and these are the benefits. We do make sure that we want the homeowners to understand the benefits first. People don't buy because they feel like this is right, someone being trying to sell it to them. But we
Right.
want to show them the benefits. So they are actually buying based on the value that's impacting their family, not just
Mm.
dollars and cents, not just focus on the lowest price.
So
We're
let's talk more.
shifting the conversation.
Let's talk more about that grant again
Yeah.
because so just I've worked in nonprofits, so I understand that sometimes that while you may want money from a particular organization, a funding organization, you have to sort of meet the criteria, right? So
Yes.
in a very similar way, let's say based on the type of damage your home is going through, where you live, and other
Mhm.
factors may make you eligible for certain grants versus
Yes,
others. And just us kind of talking about it, it can be kind of confusing, right? But you help to simplify that, right? Now,
we do.
that being said, how are you and your platform able to keep your hands on the pulse of the latest and greatest granting opportunities that are available, and that something doesn't expire, so you don't get their hope up and say, "Oh, well, you should have applied for it 2 months ago," or things like that. How do you manage sort of the fluidity of the grants that are eligible for the some of the homeowners?
So our AI agent actually constantly looking for it, and then also have the logic recognize when, for example, HERA program in California they have maxed out their available funds, and so they have retired. And our system would recognize that and then would just remove that from the availability list. And so we're constantly looking out and constantly checking, validating, and double checking multiple areas. For example, for the federal IRS 25C and 25D, it was meant to last till 2030. However,
Mm,
that was the Biden administration, but then by December, it was request to terminate it. Meanwhile, there are multiple federal websites still referencing that, and probably just communication issues. They didn't update it. So from the surface, it may seem like it's still available, but in reality, that was terminated or sunset from the Big Beautiful Bill. And so
Hmm.
those are the things that we do watch very carefully and monitoring it and verifying it from multiple sources before we present that surface app for the homeowners. And it's very specific. We acknowledge that these are criteria, and we also have link for you to access that information directly from the source.
Okay, so this is great, right? So, I mean, someone probably listening to this, whether they've been affected or know someone's been affected or in the rebuilding phase, will say, "Oh my God, how do I get a hold of this?" So, are you currently working with other construction companies and things like that? Shout out to Vivier Construction because we know you work with Vivier. Matter of fact, why don't you talk about your relationship with Vivier Construction, how that partnership is working out to give people an example of how what you're doing and how you interface with the builders and other contractors and how those who are rebuilding their homes can be and can benefit.
All right. Well, first of all, I do feel very privileged to have a chance to connect with Charmaine Carter. She is a phenomenal um, at managing projects. The way she looked at the problem, it wasn't just here's a project. She really cared about the people behind how we built this project back to.
But Grace,
And
for a second, so just so people know, so Charmaine Carter is the Chief Projects
yeah,
Officer
thank
for Vivier Construction. Okay, so Vivier is one of the many construction companies out there that's helping to rebuild homes. But Charmaine would be the person that you would call. You say, okay, I got a home and it's got burnt down and I'm ready to rebuild. And so she'll be sort of the intake person to understand all your needs and things of that nature. And so that she'll be that point. So that's Charmaine Carter. Okay. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry,
Yeah,
Grace. Go ahead.
thank you for clarifying. Yes,
Yeah.
working with Charmaine has been fantastic. She actually does care about how to help these people of rebuilding home in the right way and
Mm,
trying to find ways to bridge that financial gap. At the same time, I've watched her how she interact with the homeowners and with level of empathy and care that not every contractor delivers. And especially with people who lost their homes, they really need a lot more than average homeowners. And it
mhm.
is emotional process. It is not trivial. It's not just a regular rebuild. There's a
Sure.
lot of complexities to that. And she's so knowledgeable. And this is the reason why she came to us as how do we make this work for our clients?
Mhm.
And literally is what we built this for, of helping contractors like her, Vivera and Charmaine, to be able to present all this information for their clients to show them how to bridge that gap and more
Mm,
specifically, walk them through every step of the way and also finding better way to build so they can actually reduce the cost. Simple things such as 2 by 4, 6 inches on center is how traditional framing works, using two
mhm.
by four. Um, and but in reality is now the science has proven that 2 by 6, 24 inches on center has same equivalent of structural integrity, but it's actually cost less. So that means
Mm.
less wood or lumber needs to be purchased, less nail that needs to be purchased, and also less labor to install them correctly to frame this house. And so
So
we
your
never built it.
your program would be able to calculate all that and say, oh, based on certain guidelines, things like that. So the client, the person who's rebuilding their home, they don't have to figure that out. Your
No.
platform does that for them, right?
Yeah. So the contractor like Rivera, Charmaine will be the one to figure this out and figure out
Okay.
the estimation, figure out how the incentives plug in, and the building code associated to that particular task and how they can claim this for the insurance claims. So they can file all this
Mm,
information. That's what insurance needed to validate and justify the cost of paying out this portion of the work.
mm. You know what's is interesting? I see Charmaine Carter is actually here in the Zoom with us. Charmaine, you want to come on and and share a little bit about your great work, just to give us a real quick sample. You want to jump on real quick for with us? I guess that's no. Well, it looks like she's here, so maybe she's not. So anyway, so we'll go on. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
So
Go ahead.
I think Charmaine stepped away from the phone. She can hear it, but she can't get on microphone.
Oh, okay. Okay. But if she comes back,
Yeah.
she should tell jump on. So thanks a lot. Okay.
Okay, I'll
And
let her
so if
know.
you
So
think about So if you think about from that perspective, she is looking for ways to help her clients to build more efficiently and to bid better ultimately. And not to and be smart about their investment. Every single dollar counts. And so she's trying to stretch every single dollar for her clients so they can actually build back better. I remember that talking to one of her clients, Mark. He wanted a basement. He was very adamant and he enjoys having a basement. And I totally understand that, but the funding doesn't allow him to do so at the current funding. But once, Charmaine's working with him and recognize that some of the incentive can help him to have additional funds that he can rebuild his home with a basement. That's what this is all about, is how do we build back
mm,
the home they want and the home they see themselves in and the home they declare this is my space. This is my
yeah.
identity.
Yeah. And the home that they ultimately will need in terms of being able to you know, any other disaster may come, but I mean, obviously, just nothing is fully guaranteed, but it optimizes
Right,
their chance of maintaining the integrity of their home as well. So
right.
let's talk about just what I really want to talk about too, in addition to all this, for this is fascinating. Well, first of all, I should say that it's my understanding, working with Vivere Construction and specifically Charmaine, that if they engage a client into, to take on their rebuilding their home, any of these grants and things of that nature, while that comes to the surface, is my understanding that Vivere Construction will essentially fill out all the forms for them. So it's not another laborious level of work that the client has to take on among everything else they're dealing with, from the mental anguish of losing their home, things of that nature. But it sounds like Vivere and Charmaine Carter would be involved in streamlining that process by simplifying it, by doing the work for them once it's been identified. Can you talk more about that as well?
Yes. So the way it works, Charmaine is trained and she's going through the process of understand the different application process and the documentation that's needed to go through this. And for us, we have the proposal building with all the building code information, the cost breakdown, as well as different incentives mapping to that specific work. So be clear of, um, you know, apple to apple as to how they go through the application process, and knowing that all this information is needed is already aggregated in the application, and she can work with the clients and make sure they have all the detailed additional information needed. For example, income qualification information that will need to be supplemented through the application. And so there are grants and there, oh, there's Charmaine.
Well, so Charmaine, are you able to jump on? Charmaine Carter, ready to jump on? Maybe she's not. Okay.
Yes.
Charmaine
Yay.
Carter?
Hi, Charmaine.
Hi.
Okay. You want to come on camera? We're going to bring you on
I
so you
can't
can.
come on camera.
Okay, come on, camera. Okay, so go ahead. So we're talking about again. This is Charmaine Carter, who is not on the. You can hear her voice, but you won't be able to see her. So she is the Chief Projects Officer for Vivere Construction, and she's the person that would meet with the homeowner, a person that's getting their home rebuilt, and was sort of in a sort of a project management type of approach, sort of intake person that finds out what their needs are and things of that nature. So, Charmaine, we were just talking about the use of the platform that Grace created called HomeRes.ai and the
Hmm.
benefits that can result as a result of that can result. And one of the things we're talking about, so some of the grants and the funding that's available for the client. And we was
Hmm.
talking about the simplicity of how Vivere gets involved in helping to streamline that process. Could you talk a little bit more about that and how you approach that, please?
Well, Grace and I have, well, she's actually trained me on her app to, it's almost like plug and play.
Okay.
We look for what the client is. Well, first we look to see the needs of what the client is up against. and then we plug and play as far as what they qualify for. So it might be, if they're a senior citizen, if they're low income, it's maybe 10 or 15 questions that we can plug and play. And then once we generate that, then we can see what we can start applying for to rebuild their home.
Interesting, interesting. Can you give us an example of what maybe a situation with a particular client, just to make it even more practical for those who are listening? Give an idea that client was dealing with this, et cetera, et cetera. You work with them and using this incredible platform, homeres.ai, and you were able to simplify things to the to the advantage of the client that you're working with.
Well, for example, we are currently rebuilding homes in Altadena.
Right,
So everyone has pretty much lost their entire home. So,
right.
for example, we might have a client that has a like-to-like build, and they are undershored. Their insurance is probably giving them 85% of what they need to build their home. And so with Grace app, I can put their address in and answer those couple of questions. And also one of the questions it asks if is from a disaster or if you're just remodeling your home. There's questions like that in which this is from a disaster. So once we answer all the questions, it will let us know what we can start applying for to help them with the cost of rebuilding their home.
Hmm. So that's interesting. So you mean to tell me that it's so intelligent that the only thing you really have to do is just plop in the address and the platform does everything on its own? Is
Yeah.
that what the case is, Grace? That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, this is what I mean. Reality is, if we talk about the psychology or the emotional part for the homeowners, but there's
Mhm.
also emotional part for the contractors too. Their intake, what Charmaine's going through is intake directly from these homeowners who have gone through these traumatic event. And so it's very emotional for even for
Hmm.
Charmaine to take all that in. So
Yes.
Sure.
instead of us trying to ask, you need to fill everything out, go figure this out and pull this in, we realize technology exists today that can
Mhm.
take some of these manual work. They just can let us know what's the address, so we know the property location, then we have the intelligence go figure out the rest of it. We'll pull all the information
Mm,
together and help Charmaine. Our goal is to empower contractors, enable them to take on to the next level without spending hours of research and figure things out on their own. I mean, oftentimes when
hmm.
you start talking about research for incentives, that's like a good 5 hours. Research for materials to review the documents. When you kind of break everything down to the detail estimates, that's about 26 hours just on one proposal.
And we
Mm,
also
mm.
want the client to feel comfortable with us. And so
Right.
with Grace app, it's not asking too many personal questions
Right.
because we're still getting to know each other. So
Right.
sometimes that's like
So,
very
so what do you mean by
alarming.
hold on? What do you mean by you don't ask too many personal questions? Like, what questions would you typically avoid that maybe you want to ask,
Well,
but you don't ask? Like
with
what?
with some applications, it might ask for their birth date. It might ask for the social security number.
Got it.
It's personal questions that it's not necessary to use her application.
Yeah.
Hmm.
For us, we only ask about the project information, the address, for example, the scope of work, and what type of work you'd be doing, whether it's remodeling or building new home or rebuild or just a new ADU additions. And so we take all that information about the project specific, not the personal information that's proprietary, private information. And then with that knowledge, we can figure out all the details and figure out knowing that they may be during the intake, they may be identify a few qualifications that they may be eligible for, such as senior, uh, low income, or veterans.
Right.
And with that
Mhm.
information, we can then do our research and figure everything out and come back with the reports for Charmaine to review with the clients. I mean, to have that information to sit down, it create that calming factor of there's a hope. I can actually rebuild my home. With this additional funding
Absolutely.
that's available for me, I can now have a path forward, not just feeling stuck. and dealing with, overwhelmed with all the data, they can take away and start thinking about how would they go on the taking the next step. Once I have the funding ready, what do I do now? And so on. So that's the information we want to equip, Charmaine and the contractor of the world of this is data. When you have the data in your hand, it's easier for the homeowner to be objective, not be emotional, and focus on how to build right.
So okay, let's say for instance, here's an
Mhm.
example. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
say that my home has been damaged, destroyed in the fires, right? And so
Right.
now I have my check from the insurance company to rebuild, don't know what to do, but then I meet Charmaine, who's the chief project officer for Revere Construction.
Yes.
And so I say, okay, so I think I may be at a shortfall, whatever else. I don't really know what to do, but I need to rebuild my home. So I meet with Charmaine. She said, oh, I got a friend named Grace. She has this incredible platform, homeres.ai, blah, blah, blah. So from the point of having the conversation, when I complete the application or the information that you need to intake in order to enact the sophistication of a homeres.ai, how long does it typically take to get a full report from the time of receiving information to the time you go back to the client to provide the necessary insight to move forward with
Right
with the
away.
project? Excuse me?
Is that what-
Oh, you can go ahead, Grace. I said I said you will receive the report right away.
What is right
Minutes.
away? Like a day,
And
1 week,
no, in seconds.
in seconds?
Yes.
Wow. Man, it must
Right,
be a
Grace?
beautiful
In
thing being alive
seconds.
in 2026. Talk a little bit about that, Grace. Wow, that's pretty interesting. So you mean grants, all this other stuff, discount on different materials are being used, other things and so forth. And even I understand also even things in terms of the zoning things, do's and don'ts, and all the stuff is right there. And you get all of that
It's
in
right
seconds
there.
just based off of the address.
Just based on
Yes.
stress. I have to say, Charmaine's being very kind. It's actually more minutes. Um, but it's literally minutes to get all that report, a full report with financial analysis, sensitivity models, the ROI, you know, data and so forth to understand the payback period. So all that just fraction, I mean, literally minutes, you can get that report
Mhm.
and you can review it. And there's talking points for trying to engage with the homeowner to talk about why these are important and what's a benefit and what I will do to make sure that this will harden your home for wildfire. This would address the bolting down foundation for your earthquake, to prevent earthquake breaking your house. And so those are the things that we do care about. Make sure that the contractors always equipped, empowered, and ready to go. And that in the plain language that they can have a better conversation. And what does it mean for them instead of just taking my word? So this
So
is
I
what
want
we
to,
differentiate yourself from the bad actors. Just like, oh, just give me money, I'll take care of it. But
yeah.
we help equip the contractor to understand all these pieces. Oftentimes is it's hard to explain why this matters and why this is important
Hmm.
for you to build better. And but we lay it out in the plain language so they can actually engage and have a better conversation to help the homeowners to make better decisions.
Very interesting. Okay, I swear people probably think this is an infomercial, and it's not. We really are talking about. We're just giving examples of how effective that this can be. But let's talk about the exploitation, particularly of some of the longtime homeowners of Altadena, and particularly the senior community, right? So, so for many families, especially the older homeowners, right, this may be the largest financial negotiation of their lives. Okay, now how are people being taken advantage of simply because they don't have the right information? Charmaine, you might want to chime in on this. Um, Give some examples, more practically speaking, and how this helps to sort of augment and sort of eliminate predatory practices, people taking advantage of people trying to build their homes or even selling their property for a quick bite just because they are just don't know what to do or they just kind of feel discombobulated.
Well, I think Grace mentioned this when we first started the Zoom call. Um, the first wave of contractors did take advantage of a lot of
Give me some
the
examples. Give me some examples of how people were taking advantage of. People need to know how they were taking advantage of it, and then how we're coming in, sort of being a Superman, Superwoman here, so to
well,
speak.
for one, I would say one example, the contractors were asking for money up front,
Mhm.
and they would ask for 200,000 or 40% of whatever the rebuild is
Wow.
before they even maybe even gave them a proposal. It was a verbal
Mm.
contract. And so with the first wave, I would say out of, well, I was told that there was at least seven contractors that ran off with a lot of people's money. And that's because the people didn't have knowledge. They did not know that they should never give over 10% before before they even start rebuilding their home.
Over 10%, not to exceed $1,000. Is that what?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I want everybody to understand that with all this construction going on, that no contractor should have asked for not more than $1,000 or
Mhm.
10% or not to
Mhm.
exceed $1,000.
No.
But
Yep.
what were they asking
Absolutely.
for again? Drop some numbers again. People need to hear that. What kind of numbers were they asking for again, please?
It was over 20%. Some was asking for 30, some asked for 40%,
Actual
or they
dollar
would,
amount.
yes, or they would just throw out a number. I need 100,000 to secure your spot to rebuild your home.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is a perfect example of the exploitation of the future black wealth being passed on that was immediately shattered by predatory practices in the city of Altadena.
Absolutely.
Wow. 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 Now, let's talk about the great things that you guys are doing. Again, I know we kind of said it. I want us to reinforce what you've done to mitigate that and to make it very clear to uh, uh, those who are still in the process trying to figure out what they're going to do, why they should consider getting a hold of Grace and working with great construction companies such as Vivier, and how you can help simplify that and put an end to this taking advantage of this long time um, generational black wealth and home ownership in the city of Altadena.
Well, there's no hidden agenda.
How we
All
know
we
that?
need is all,
How would we know
I'm
that?
only asking for your first and last name and your address. I'm not asking you for not $1. I'm actually showing you how to retrieve dollars before I ask you for a down payment.
Mm,
And that's
interesting.
something that people need to be aware of. No one should ever ask you for money before you even sign a dotted line.
Would you charge the client
And
to
and
do the
and
analysis
also they should
with the
never ask
platform?
you how much it how much is your refund from your insurance companies. That's
I was
also
say,
something.
wait a minute, say that one more time. That was
No,
interesting.
no, no one should ever ask you how much is your refund from your insurance or your mortgage company.
Interesting.
Or,
Interesting.
well, I got 1.2 million from my insurance. I go, okay, well, I can build your house for 1.1. That's what was
Wow.
going on. So
Mm.
someone would tell them, they would tell the contractors, oh, I got 900,000. Okay, well, I can, it's all inclusive. I can build your home for 899. And
That's
it's
I
under,
tell you, just give me all of that, and we'll do it out the door. We'll tell everything out the door, and
mhm,
then they're gone.
just come right up under. I should never ask you that.
When
Not with our
you really
first
want to,
conversation.
so when you and Grace are meeting with a client, and let's say you've kind of run the numbers through homeres.ai, what do you charge the client for that service?
Well, Grace can answer this.
So for us, we charge contractors $99 a month as a
Mhm.
starter, and there's also 199 and it has a more robust functionalities. But this is only for contractors, and we
Not for
support,
clients.
not for clients. We support contractors. That's our commitment. We're here to support them, empower them, for them to have information
Okay,
because
so
contractors are the one helping to making those recommendations and implementing them. And so ownership is so critical, and we want to make sure they have the right information to build this right. And when the contractor have that confidence, they build relationship and trust with their clients. And I think what you just
Yes.
heard from Charmaine is she doesn't ask for money. She doesn't ask how your insurance payout is going to be. She focused on how can I help you to get more, stretch your dollar even more. That's the difference between a good contractors versus a scrupulous, predators that are trying to take advantage of you. And at any point, just like any relationship, think about it. Like dating, the first time you meet with a person, you can get a good vibe, whether they're here to take advantage of you or they're there to really be there with you.
Hmm.
So construction in some ways is like, like dating and marriage. Once you sign the dot, you're literally kind of committing it, and that's millions, sometimes millions of dollars of commitment. It's a lot.
Yes, it
And
is a
for
lot.
someone
It's a
who's
lot to
there to
consider.
start to take, have intention to take advantage of you, that relationship is not going to last. It's
Mhm.
very one-sided. They're just looking to take money from you and then disappear. And for someone who cares about the relationships and care about really doing the right thing, like Charmaine does, that's where the difference comes in.
yeah,
And she
yeah,
cares, she listens, she finds a way and help them to help their clients to bridge a gap and be creative how to finding the solution. And at the same time, work with the team to accelerate the build process so they can get back to their home quicker. And this is where they can feel they're more in control of their lives instead of constantly in the limbo between, rental properties and other locations. It's a really hard life of what they went through this past year and a half.
It is.
And she
It's
gets it.
devastating.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. So it sounds like then you, Grace, interface with the contractor, such as we use an example for Veer. But then
Mhm.
Charmaine, when you deal with the actual client, the one you're going to build a home for, what does that client have to pay for to use the system? What is your charge to the client?
Zero. No
Zero,
charge.
no charge.
Hmm.
So
No
is this
charge.
it really is just an extension of the service that you're providing to help them enter into the rebuilding stage? That's what I'm
Yes.
hearing. Is that correct?
Yes,
Wow,
correct.
interesting. Interesting. So let me ask this question. Again, we want to keep Altadena kind of in the focus here. Um, so in a community like Altadena, right, where home ownership, excuse me, represents generational wealth, what happens if people rebuild incorrectly or not at all? What is the impact of that? I'll start with you, Grace, and then Charmaine, if you want to chime in, please.
I think I'll break it into two parts. There's a psychological part of losing their identity
Hmm.
and the recovering. It's it's going to be continuing a long road for them to recover that
Sure.
emotional loss, right?
Hmm.
And then there's the financial loss. And knowing that they couldn't get the fair value of the property that they have inherited or they built, they earned, and um, that is devastating. And that again, back to their emotional state, and all that confusion will continue to. It's a vicious cycle. It doesn't just disappear. And for those people who continue to have a hard time making that decision. I totally understand. It's not going just like you mentioned, this is the biggest financial decision they have ever made their entire
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And this is also the biggest emotional roller coaster they will ever experience their entire life. This is
Yeah.
not an easy decision. It's not an easy ride. And again, they've been forced. They never choose to do this on their own. And all that logic, all that money, all that confusion is really taking people down.
Yeah.
And sometimes they feel like they're stuck in that decision-making stage. They don't know what is right and wrong, knowing that there's all this noise and scrupulous contractors are out there or people bad actors are coming to take advantage of them. And it's hard to
Yeah.
settle. And then, of course, there's another layer of insurance settlements. It's also very complicated and sometimes may not be fair.
Yeah. Well,
So
yeah.
there is such a vulnerable place, and every single day there is sometimes maybe seem easier to wait or don't do anything.
Hmm.
Instead of taking action may actually cost them more down the road.
Yeah. 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 That's interesting. Charmaine, same question to you. So, in because of what a community like Altadena is, and particularly in terms of home ownership, really represents generation wealth. And as we said at the top of the show, that ask any financial expert what's the best way to create generational wealth, they'll always say real estate.
Yes.
What happens if we don't get this right for the city of Altadena? What could that mean?
Ah, it will never be the same.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
It will never be the same.
yep, yep. I would go out on a limb and say that Altadena is a modern day Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
What happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then they got all burnt down in the whole bit and so forth and
Right.
whatever else. That's kind of what we were looking at because I'm sure a lot of people didn't realize just of the significant black home ownership as compared to what it meant on a national scale. Again, north of 80% of the African Americans that live in Altadena own their homes, and in many cases, it was passed around from generation to generations that it
Hmm.
could be completely turned upside down. Some people already have been exploited and things of that nature. And maybe because we've moved on and talked about other things in our country and so forth, that, we talk about love, we talk about family, we talk about marriage, a lot of things on this podcast. But if we don't really do something about the foundation of how we really build our families, that could totally be exploited.
Yes.
And by golly, wow, we're not going to watch another Black Wall Street go up in flames. It's like this. It's going to get rebuilt and it's going to be rebuilt better. And I think it's phenomenal. Other things that's going on. I'm just wondering, anybody out there have any other questions or anything else like that? And if
One point
not,
I do want to share with you, and I
no, go ahead,
why I
please.
think it's so personal about Altadena is I have met many homeowners who's been taken advantage over the years. And
Sure.
there's that sense of shame that people don't talk about.
Mm,
Right?
mm,
They feel ashamed and embarrassed that they've been taken advantage of. And these are just like you mentioned, Altadena, 80% of homeowners or African Americans are homeowners. There's a sense of pride that they
Hmm.
yeah.
made it. And to be knocked
Mm,
down like that
yeah.
and be taken advantage of when they pride themselves as intelligent, smart, professional people, and all of a sudden, just like that, and being taken advantage,
Yeah.
thousands of dollars being taken out of them. And then there's a sense of
Hmm.
shame. And the
Yeah.
shame is often don't talk about. People don't feel comfortable talking about it because it's shameful. We hide in the
Yeah.
dark, in the shadow, right? And we have to change that. We have to prevent those scroobius, bad actors come in the picture because we need to build this community back. It wasn't just
Yeah.
one house. There's an entire community, entire population of African American. They're the fabric of Altadena. They're such a critical community of that, Altadena. And to
Hmm.
not to bring, rebuild and for them to regain their identity and feeling sense of pride and bring that community
Mm,
back with just enormous pride of how they accomplished over the years, despite all the challenges in their lives.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We have to do
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. No, well said. Well, I'm curious. So if we get this right in Altadena, if we can get this right in Altadena, what does this become, or does this become a model across the country?
Yes,
Yes.
just giving me the goosebumps. That's what I think about. If we build this right, well, probably not the word if, when we build this right,
Yes.
When,
we're
yeah.
going to work for it to make this right. And when we do so, this is where we can change entire generations of how we look
Mm,
at communities, how we celebrate African Americans in their communities, and how
Hmm.
they weave into the fabric of that urban space and just continue to thrive. And when we have that model, we can, could actually learn from that and continue to expand to the rest of the country.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow. That's
Well
awesome.
said.
Charmaine, you want to add to that?
No, I think Grace said enough.
Yeah, she said enough. She said enough. That's great. Well, one thing I wanted to say that about Vivier Construction is that they really do care for the community. And while obviously, just like with any business, they're looking to make money and seize opportunity, but just like anything else, but in a legitimate, respectful, dignified way. And so I've gotten a chance to kind of know some of them. So it's which one reason why I'm sort of mentioning Vivir as well. The other thing too, I think it was interesting because there was a open house that they had like last week, or took a couple of weeks ago, and one of the interested parties who signed on with Vivir, she's an older Jewish woman. And one of the things that she noticed and she loved about Vivir was not just their diversity. I mean, like Grace is part of the team. She's of Asian descent. Charmaine Carter, she's African American. The CEO, he's Middle Eastern, and some of the construction individuals, they're of Hispanic descent, etc. But she was also fascinated by the number of women who were
Women.
involved with the company. So woman power all day long, not just a bunch of men with tatted up and so forth. Say, yeah, we're gonna do this for you and whatever else. But they really do represent the community, and we often will acknowledge that Altadena is not just all African American. There's just a significant African American presence in Altadena, but there's all races that are there and nearby as well. And so we don't want to forget about the devastation that happened in Calabasas, et cetera, et cetera. But for this particular topic, we just wanted to kind of focus on Altadena in terms of the devastation that could be impacted for generations and what they're doing to champion and wave it off. So the importance of that. So with that being said, we're going to get ready to wrap up. And Grace, do you have any last final thoughts before we get out of here?
Thank you so much for having me. For us to celebrate and finding pathway for our communities, the African Americans, for them to rebuild better. That
Yeah.
is what we are all focused on, and that I'm committed to do so. Partly because I grew up watching my father take. Well, there's one moment in my life when I was young. My dad would take me to job site, and I'm a daughter of an electrician. And
Okay.
I remember when he took me to our first home, and the sunlight came through, and his face just lit up. That sense of pride of home ownership, able to
Mm.
take care of his family. That
Yeah.
to me is all this is all about. And I want to recreate that experience for every family rebuilding in Altadena. They deserve better. They didn't ask
Mm.
for this, but it requires all of us to be there to support them. And so I'm committed to support Charmaine, and I want all these families to experience what my father experienced, the home ownership and the pride to take care of their family.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Really awesome. Charmaine, do you want to add anything, final thoughts on behalf of Vivir, if they wanted to reach out to Vivir or anything like that? We've kind of like really talked about the great work that they've done. I wonder if you want to share anything about Vivir and your services or et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Grace, for all of the acknowledgement and support that you have helped Revere grow. You can find us you can find me at Charmaine at revereconstruction.com. We are
Let's spell that
planning
out because
on,
I'm not sure if Vivir is a very common word. Vivere, is that it? Vivir?
yes,
And
yes,
then construction,
construction,
vivirconstruction.com.
yes,
Got it. Yeah.
yes. And soon we are expected to open up a showcase room. So that's coming soon. And when we do, we will make sure
Showcase
we
room
leave
where? In Altadena?
Altadena. Yes.
Altadena. Okay. Great. So,
Yes.
so people can kind of stop by and actually get a chance to meet you guys and see what you're all about, huh? So,
Yeah.
And I just want to add to that, that literally is a commitment to the community. They're
Hmm.
putting their
mhm.
boots down and be there physically supporting the community. So if any homeowner is looking for, you know, a contractor they can trust, Charmaine of Rivera is definitely one of them. And we are there to support them. And we share the same value, we share the same mission, and we get it, how hard they work, and we want to be there for them. And knowing that they're out there working super hard to take care of the families, that's what really matters in this kind nowadays more than ever.
No,
Oh,
that's
thank you,
awesome.
Grace. Thank you,
And,
Grace.
and Grace, if they want more information directly about the homeres.ai, how can they reach you or find out more about it?
Yes, they can just come to homeres.ai or they can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn or just my email, gmace at homeres, GMASE at homeres, HOMERES
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Now, RES is that just means res? What is RES? Is that like an acronym? What is that?
It's an acronym means resilient, efficient, and sustainable.
Ah, nice, nice. I wasn't sure. That's sure for residential, but I assume you're not just doing residential properties and so forth. So, got it. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So we hope that you've enjoyed this particular podcast and the focus on what it really is going to take to really revitalize one of the longest standing African American communities here in Southern California, but what it means even on a national scale, and the importance of home ownership, generational wealth, and how that is at risk right now if decisions aren't being made right now. Again, a lot of people lost their homes, some are rebuilding, and some are still trying to figure it out. And I think we found a solution to help mitigate some of those problems, right? So thank you for joining us again. This is Dr. Carey Neal, host and moderator for, excuse me, host and moderator for Urban Birds and Bees. Until next time, everyone have a good night.